Hello there, good evening and welcome to the news tonight. I'm Tracy Shilchi and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you the day's top stories from India and across the world, starting with the headlines. China posts its lowest GDP increase in 25 years. Fourth quarter growth of 6.8% is its lowest quarterly expansion since the global financial crisis in 2009. Prime Minister Narendra Modi targets ruling Congress in poll-bound Assam, promises to fast-track development in the state. Protests escalate across the country over the alleged suicide by Dalit research scholar Rohit Vemula in Hyderabad. The incident takes on a political color. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi blames the VC and minister for suicide. BJP refutes allegations. And amid match-fixing allegations, the Australian Open enters day 2. Players dismiss reports of wrongdoing at the top level. Our top story this evening, China today confirmed its economy grew at an annual pace of 6.9% in 2015, the slowest rate in a quarter of a century. The loss of momentum in the world's second largest economy caused ripples across the world and spooked global financial markets. But the Chinese markets were perfectly fine. In fact, the benchmark indices gained nearly 3% on hopes of more stimulus policies. Here's more to the story.
China's growth rate moderated to 6.8% for the fourth quarter. It was the lowest quarterly rate since the global financial crisis of 2009.
全年国内生产总值67.67万亿元，按可比价格计算，比上年增长6.9%。四个季度分别是7.0、7.0、6.9。6.8.
After being a major driver of global growth in recent years, China is locked in a protracted slowdown. Weak exports, excess capacity, investment slowdown and a soft property market are all competing with high debt levels.
那么你像 PPI 的长期下降，从增长速度讲，它肯定会影响中国经济的增长速度。但是从我们的发展目标来看呢，它恰恰是我们实施创新驱动战略、结构优化升级的一个必然要求，也是一个要进行转型的一个阵痛期的一个正常表现。
Policymakers in Beijing have struggled to arrest the slide in China's fortunes. Some analysts are predicting a growth of about 6.5% this year, even if, as many expect, the authorities unveil fresh spending packages and cut interest rates again.
Big concern, though, is if you take the quarter-on-quarter data of 1.6% and annualize it, then you come up with an annualized growth rate of 3.2%. Now, that is dangerous, not because of the digits and all this false precision. It's just because it does herald a very severe slowdown in the Chinese economy. And that's really the point of this. Forget the numbers, look at the trend, and the trend is saying severe slowdown. That's the worrying bit.
Analysts claim that if the economy slips below 6.8%, the government may have to opt for a stimulus package that it wants to avoid. The slowdown has already destabilized China's stock market, with the main index, a Shanghai Composite, briefly falling below on Monday and hundreds of billions of dollars wiped off the market.
What it needs to do is, one, to let the renminbi go. Crucially, it must stop interfering in markets, because the more that it interferes in markets, the more problems it creates. It exacerbates the situation. It's like throwing oil on fire. So monetary side expansion, fiscal side expansion, and stop meddling in the markets.
Tuesday's data suggests no material change in what most economists have been telling the world for years. China's economy is cooling gradually, from sizzling double-digit growth rates to a hopefully more sustainable pace in the mid-single digits, with no signs yet of a hard landing, which investors fear. But some market watchers believe real growth levels may be much weaker than official data suggest, jeopardizing the fragile global economy. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, to understand more on this story and what it indicates for India as well, we're joined by Himanshu Vats, who's a senior editor at the Economic Times, joining us from the capital. Himanshu, first of all, just give us an idea really of serious the situation seems at the moment, at least for India.
See, from India's point of view, there are two sides to it. One, out of the BRICS countries, that is, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and some people include South Africa also. The only country where there is optimism, the only growth economy among the emerging markets is India now. So to that extent, the spotlight comes very squarely and properly on India. And India needs to capitalize on it, take appropriate policies, woo investors. On the other side, what this does, the impact on India and many countries of the world is that China has been seen as a locomotive of growth of the world economy. As soon as the data came out today, the IMF has, downgraded its forecast for world economic growth. So once the global economic growth slows down, there is a problem for Indian exports. They've already been falling for more than a year, I think 14 or 15 months. So that has implications. China is been a huge engine for growth. It's been absorbing a lot of capital. It's been supplying goods all over the world. And if there's a slowdown, it creates a negative sentiment.
Yes.
So it affects a lot of sentiment. And then there is worry how this government reacts to the slowdown. There is a lot of fear of some drastic measures which are very, very investor unfriendly. So that can have a big impact, and the ripples are global. It has soiled markets all over the world. Although today markets were quite okay.
Yes.
But the impacts are there. A Chinese slowdown also, reduces the price of coal. It reduces the price of oil, which is good for India. India is a major importer, so commodity price fall is good. So it's a mixed thing for India.
Absolutely. And talking about mixed reactions, we did see in China, the panic definitely didn't grip them as much as it did the rest of the world or even Indian markets for that matter. We did see quite a few of the benchmark indices going 3% up. So, they're, of course, going as per their plan. But the idea is, of course, of how the rest of the nations react to it. And also the devaluation of the yuan, that is something that India would be watching out for.
Yes, devaluation of the yuan is important for India. Since August or so, yuan has depreciated around 6% against the dollar. And in export competitiveness, that's very important. And also, as far as the rest of the world is concerned, the reason we're looking at China so closely, it's been happening for a few years now. It was around 2012 when Chinese economic growth slowed down from near double digit to around 7.7%. And China is also undergoing a huge internal economic restructuring. From a manufacturing-led, export-oriented economy, it wants to be more of a service sector economy.
Yes.
Because there's a limit to how much you can grow and how much prosperity you can create for your people by manufacturing-led exports. Because you depend a lot on other factors, the other countries. The Chinese government is now very keen to develop the services sector. And it has made progress in that. In today's data, it also showed that service sector, for the first time, crossed 50% of the GDP. Manufacturing is around 40%, and agriculture, the base primary sector, as they call it, there is around 10%. So there's a good side of things also for China, and
Yes.
Perhaps that's the reason why their local markets have not reacted so much. And also, a lot of this was already priced into the market. If you see markets, Chinese shares have fallen sharply. There was a 7% fall a few days ago, which triggered the circuit breaker.
Yeah.
So a lot of this uncertainty has been priced in. And today, after the data came out, there have been no panic measures announced. So I think the international investors are a bit okay for the moment, at least.
Okay. And very quickly, Himanshu, if you could also give us an idea really of where India stands at the moment. Across the world, we are seeing India being one of the few economies which has, of course, grown steadily, even at this particular scenario as well. Is this a good time for India to, push itself as one of the biggest economies to forge ahead? Or is it too soon to even say that it could be, as big as China in years to come?
Well, the two different things you're asking, as far as to be as big as China in years to come, I think it's still a long way off.
Yes. Okay.
But at the same time, international observers, experts, government heads, they have pretty publicly and clearly said that India does appear to be a good place at the moment. As far as the economy is concerned, it is pretty stable. Inflation is under control, and the outlook is pretty good. Many sectors have been set right. Sectors like road, many aspects of the power sector, all of them are poised to do well. And one of the very basic things for the Indian economy, the monsoon, we've had two failures, and despite that, situation is more or less under control. So at least for the last 100 years, we haven't had three failed monsoons in a row. So statistically, and the coming end of the El Nino phenomenon, all this points to a good monsoon, or maybe a good couple of monsoons. So India would be a contrasting situation. It will be a very positive thing. But we are nowhere near playing the role China played of being the engine of global economic growth, global commodity prices.
Okay.
So that will require sustained growth on India's part for years and years and years. And if you speak to people in the government, they're saying the first year and a half of this government, they have set things right and built the basic blocks on which economy can grow double digits for many years, but that remains to be seen.
Absolutely.
But the situation is very good. I think if India, very cautiously and properly formulates its policies, the budget is going to be keenly watched.
Yes.
But I think India has a very good chance to really shine.
All
but
right.
it's still a long shot
way to go.
from matching China.
All right. Mr. Vats, thanks so much for joining us with those details on this story. Thank you. Heading on to more news, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj today wrapped up a two-day visit to Palestine and Israel. Last night, she addressed the Indian diaspora in Jerusalem, where she urged Israeli businesses to look beyond trade to build long-term stakes in the Indian economy. She also asked Indians to invest back home. Later, Sushma Swaraj also said that both the countries would mark the 25th anniversary of the full establishment of diplomatic relations in 2017. Earlier on Monday, she also met a host of Israeli ministers, including the country's top leadership.
As you know, Make in India is a priority of our government. Our flagship schemes of Clean Ganga, Smart Cities, or Digital India are all areas of Israeli expertise. We should work towards a new vision of our important partnership, which should reflect our close friendship and harness fully the potential of our two knowledge economies.
And now let's give you some more international news updates in Global Buzz. Iran will try to increase its oil production by 500,000 barrels per day after sanctions have been removed. Deputy Oil Minister Javadi said that Iran is determined to retake its share of the oil market, which plunged after crippling sanctions were imposed in 2012. Iran's total production currently stands at 3.1 million barrels per day. A suicide bomber blew himself up close to a police checkpoint in northwestern Pakistan on the 19th of January, killing at least 10 people and wounding more than 20. The bomber rammed his motorcycle into the roadside checkpoint. No one has claimed responsibility for the blast. At least 26 people were killed and 20 others injured after fighter jets of the Saudi Arabia-led coalition attacked a police facility in Yemen on Monday. Rescuers at the airstrike site said that the death toll will probably rise as there are still people buried under the debris. Without a quick break here, we'll be back with more national news. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's get you some more national news now. And massive student protests were witnessed across the country today in the wake of the suicide of Dalit research scholar Rohit Vemula. The protests took on a political colour as well, with Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi blaming the Vice Chancellor of the Hyderabad University and the central government for it. But the BJP denied the charge. Here's a report.
Protests at the University of Hyderabad. Students demanded the resignation of Vice Chancellor over the suicide of research scholar Rohit Vemula. The Dalit community member was expelled from the university along with 4 other students last year and from the hostel a fortnight ago for allegedly attacking another group of students. Vemula's suicide triggered protests by student bodies across India. In Hyderabad, protesters sat outside the university campus and raised slogans demanding action against the authorities.
16th day that the protest is on, and on the 13th day we lost our dear friend Rohit Vemula, and we consider this as an institutional murder, and this institutional murder is unjust.
Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi also met the students protesting against the incident. The BJP accused him of politicizing the suicide. The party insisted that the issue had nothing to do with the victim being from the backward community.
There's no question of politicizing it. But what has happened here is some youngsters have felt that they wanted to express certain ideas that they have. And the institution, instead of operating fairly, instead of letting them speak, maybe even saying, we don't agree with you, but you can speak, has used its power to crush them.
राहुल गांधी जी या कांग्रेस पार्टी को ये लगता है कि हर चीज पर वो नकारात्मकता करे, और उनकी जो ये नकारात्मक सोच है यही सबसे ज्यादा कांग्रेस पार्टी को नुकसान कर रही है.
Meanwhile, members of Telangana Jagruti Yuva Morcha staged a demonstration outside the residence of Labour and Employment Minister Bandaru Dattatreya in Hyderabad, demanding justice and his resignation.
What we want is that the VC should be sacked immediately, and besides that we want punishment for all the people who have been accused, and plus we want compensation 50 lakhs for the aggrieved family, for the victim's family.
The minister and university's vice chancellor were on Monday named in an FIR over the incident. Dattatreya had written to Education Minister Smriti Irani seeking action against anti-social elements who were disrupting peaceful atmosphere within the university. On Monday, the Human Resource Development Ministry formed a 2-member team to look into the suicide case. Section 144 was imposed on the university campus on Tuesday, barring large congregations to avoid any untoward incident. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, here are some more political leaders reacting to the shocking suicide and protests that have followed.
यूनिवर्सिटीज का अपना एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन होता है, हाँ, लेकिन उसके बावजूद मंत्रालय जरूर सजग है, उस पर ध्यान है हमारा, और इसी के लिए आपने देखा होगा कि एक कमेटी बनाई गई है जो वहां जाकर फैक्ट को एकत्रित करेगी, फिर आकर बताएगी कि क्या मामला है, तो उसके हिसाब से एक्शन अगर जरूरत पड़ी तो कुछ आगे होगा.
नाक बात है कि ये अपने जो इनके गलत कारनामे हुए हैं, जिनके कारण एक दलित बच्चे की सुसाइड नहीं, आत्महत्या नहीं, बल्कि मैं तो इसको कहूंगी कि ये हत्या हुई है उनके कारण, उनके एक्शंस के कारण.
केंद्रीय मंत्री श्रीमती स्मृति ईरानी, दूसरे मंत्री श्री दत्तात्रेय और वाइस चांसलर श्री राव की मिली जुली साजिशों का नतीजा है कि दलित युवक को आत्महत्या के लिए प्रेरित किया. मैं चाहता हूं दोनों मंत्रियों के इस्तीफे हों, वाइस चांसलर को गिरफ्तार किया जाए.
शक और शुबह पैदा हो गया है कि पूरे इस मामले में वहां का विश्वविद्यालय का जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, प्रशासन है, उसके कोताही और मंत्री जी के हस्तक्षेप के कारण ये सब कुछ हुआ है, तो इस पर कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए.
Of Rohit clearly shows cold-hearted attitude of the concerned minister and the government of the day. But for the letter written by the minister, death of Rohit would not have taken place. It clearly shows that our university campuses are no more places of politics of dissent.
We'll keep an eye on developments in this case. Meanwhile, in more news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today attacked the Congress at a public rally in election-bound Assam. He blamed the Congress for lack of development in the state and promised to fast-track development, but did not announce any financial package. Later, he also addressed students at the Indian Institute of Technology in Guwahati.
15 साल उन्होंने सरकार चलाई, 10 साल यहां से प्रधानमंत्री आए और हिसाब मेरे से मांग रहे हैं। भाई पहले 15 साल का तो हिसाब दो, बाद में 15 महीने का हिसाब मांगो।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi sounding the poll bugle for BJP in Assam. Addressing a public rally in Kokrajhar, Modi came down heavily on the Congress government in Assam and the previous UPA government at the centre for failing to fulfill the aspirations of the people.
क्या नहीं है मेरे भाइयों बहनों, क्या नहीं? इतनी प्राकृतिक संपदा है, पानी का भंडार है। आसाम की स्थिति किसने पैदा की, क्यों पैदा की? और इसलिए आसाम के लोगों के मन में विचार आना बहुत स्वाभाविक है। अब हमें आसाम ऐसे ही रहना देना है कि आगे बढ़ता आसाम चाहिए हमें।
Modi promised to fast-track development in the state. He also announced a slew of initiatives, including granting tribal status to the two communities. Modi, however, refrained from announcing any big central packages for Assam or the Bodoland Territorial Areas district.
तेज गति से बढ़ता आसाम चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए? विकास की नई ऊंचाइयों वाला आसाम चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए? आसाम ऐसा हो जहां नौजवान को रोजगार हो, ऐसा आसाम चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए? यहाँ के किसान, यहाँ के मजदूर, इन सब के लिए उज्जवल भविष्य हो, ऐसा आसाम चाहिए।
The PM also addressed a youth rally in Assam. Later, he addressed students at the Indian Institute of Technology in Guwahati. The BJP is expected to announce its first pre-poll alliance in the state with the Bodoland People's Front. The party was an ally of the ruling Congress for 13 years, but they split in 2014. Narendra Modi is on a two-day visit to Northeast. Earlier in the day, he visited an organic products exhibition in Gangtok and Sikkim. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Gurdaspur SP Salvinder Singh was subjected to a lie detector test by the National Investigation Agency today in connection with the Pathankot terror attack case probe. The SP is under investigation over discrepancies in statements on his alleged abduction by terrorists. He in fact claims to have been kidnapped by the suspected Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists hours before they attacked the Pathankot Indian Air Force Station in the wee hours of the 2nd of January. Meanwhile, Maulana Masood Azhar, the JEM chief who is suspected to be behind the attack, is reportedly not in Pakistan's custody. There were reports earlier of Azhar being taken into protective custody.
एक तरफ तो हम ये दावा कर रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान ठोस कदम उठा रहा है, लेकिन दूसरी तरफ ये भी आ रहा है कि अभी तक कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुई है। तो इस मामले को आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए और मैं समझता हूँ कि बातचीत का सिलसिला जो इस पठानकोट के मसले को लेकर थोड़ा टल गया है, उसको फिर से उसको शुरू करना चाहिए।
इस तरह की आवाज़ें वहाँ से निकल रही हैं, लगता तो ऐसे है कि भाई शायद इस बार वो कुछ करेंगे, शायद इंटरनेशनल प्रेशर की वजह से करेंगे, क्योंकि टेररिज्म से आज के दिन सारा विश्व तंग है और एक अड्डा पाकिस्तान भी है, तो यहाँ पे समाप्त करना सारे विश्व की जिम्मेदारी भी है और हमारे लिए अच्छी बात है अगर विश्व उनके ऊपर प्रेशर बनाता है।
And here's a roundup of some more national news updates in Nationwide. A special Maharashtra Control of Organised Crime Act of Makoka Court in Mumbai today granted permission to the CBI to interrogate gangster Chhota Rajan, the prime accused in journalist Jyotirmoy Dey's murder case. The 54-year-old crime boss will be questioned for 10 days starting the 27th of January before adjourning the case on the 5th of February. RBI will buy up to 10,000 crore rupees of bonds from the secondary market under its open markets operations. The move will infuse long-term liquidity in the banking system, the second such auction in fiscal year 2016. Almost 8 years after operations on Delhi's first bus rapid transport corridor started, the government has begun to dismantle the 5.8-kilometer corridor in South Delhi. The BRT corridor, which was built in 2008, will be completely dismantled by February. The deconstruction will cost around 12 crore rupees. The Delhi High Court on Tuesday said that private unaided schools on land allotted by the DDA have to take prior government sanction before hiking fees. It directed DDA to take appropriate steps in accordance with the law against these private schools, which violate the stipulation regarding fee hike in the letter of allotment. All right, on to some sports. And day 2 of the Australian Open proved to be quite a day of shocks. Rafael Nadal, Venus Williams and Simona Halep were knocked out of the tournament. Nadal suffered the only first-round exit of his career at the Australian Open after Fernando Verdasco recorded a stunning 5-set victory. Verdasco went on to win 7-6, 4-6, 3-6, 7-6, 6-2. However, British number 1 Andy Murray saw off German teenager Alexander Zverev to reach the second round. And in the women's round, Venus Williams also crashed out of the Australian Open in the very first round. The 8th-seeded lost to British player Johanna Konta 6-4, 6-2. Second-seeded Simona Halep also suffered a shock defeat. The 24-year-old Romanian was beat 6-4, 6-3 by Chinese qualifier Zhang Shui. Meanwhile, more tennis players responded to the match-fixing allegations. 17-time Grand Slam champion Roger Federer said that he wanted people linked to the allegations to be named. Meanwhile, world number 1 player Novak Djokovic dismissed reports of any wrongdoing at the top level, saying that a couple of players mentioned were not active anymore.
Serious match-fixing allegations are shaking up the tennis world, overshadowing the year's first Grand Slam tournament, the Australian Open. Online report published by BuzzFeed UK and BBC reveal suspected illegal betting has been rife in tennis over the past decade. The report identified no players that alleged that 16 players in top 50 were flagged repeatedly to tennis authorities, but no action was taken against them. Half of them, it said, are playing the Australian Open. Responding to the allegations, world number 3 Roger Federer said it was important to reveal the names of those linked to clear the speculations.
Like to hear the name, I would love to hear names, and then at least it's concrete stuff and you can actually debate about it. Was it the player? Was it the support team? Who was it? Is it now? Was it before? Was it a doubles player? Was it a singles player? Which slam? It's so all over the place. It's such nonsense to answer something that is just pure speculation.
World number 2 Andy Murray said tennis needed to do a better job of warning young players about the perils of match fixing, as it could affect their career as well as the sport.
I think that it should be tennis that does a better job of explaining. They shouldn't have to read it in the press. You have to be proactive, I think, with things like this and go and speak to the players rather than them reading about it in the newspapers.
On Monday, world number 1 Novak Djokovic said that he was approached to lose a first-round match at the St. Petersburg Open in 2007, a tournament which he refused to play. But the Serb insisted that match fixing was not prevalent among the elite.
I was not approached directly. I was approached through, me personally, through people that were working with me at that time.
Tennis authorities strongly deny covering up match-fixing evidence, but they are likely to come under increasing pressure to act against what remains a threat to the historic sport's integrity. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
That's all we have for you on the news tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.